Gretchen Carlson was on Fox and Friends, and she had Thomas Kersting. Now, he is a therapist and a school counselor, and they were debating, along with another lady, an issue that's going on right now in some school systems where they are, of course, obligated to provide lower-cost lunches or free lunches to people who apply for that program and are eligible for it. And so up until now, they've been feeding the kids who their parents don't sign them up for the program, although conceivably they are eligible for it. And now they're saying we simply can't afford to do that anymore. And so if the kid comes up with his food and he's not signed up for the program, they will simply throw it away. And so Gretchen Carlson teased it up to Thomas Kersting for his opinion.
I mean, I agree with the superintendent sending the letter. I think it's a little harsh. I don't think they're really going to throw the food out right in front of the kid and embarrass the kid.
Tom, do you have a problem with the fact that the kids ultimately end up being punished in this situation when it really is the parents' fault?
I think it's misleading that the kids are going to be punished. We have more food than any other nation. No kid is going to starve. If a kid, if one day a kid doesn't have lunch, right, maybe that's a teaching moment where that kid doesn't have lunch. That may sound harsh saying that, but, we got to get people here to start being responsible for themselves. You can't expect everybody to be responsible for you. From almost 20 years working in a school district, they're not going to make the kids starve. That's just kind of like a big warning to the parents, SOS. Start being responsible. They're not going to make the kids starve. And I have kids come to me, I give kids money all the time. Okay. And I'm broke from doing that over there.
Right.
So I'm kidding.
Now, before I lay into that, I will say, I guess for Fox and Friends' sake, or to the credit of Gretchen Carlson, the lady that they had on did actually have a lot of empathy for the students and said that they should not be punished for their parents' laziness or lack of ability to complete paperwork and things of that sort. And so I guess to that extent they had some balance, I suppose, but they still did have Thomas Kersting on, and he is apparently totally lacking in normal human warmth and empathy because he thinks that what does it matter if the kids go hungry for a while? So a couple of the things that he said. One, I don't really care if they throw the food away right in front of the kids or if they put it underneath the desk and then throw it away. It's still being thrown away. It's saying, we care so much about getting those couple of dollars from you that we will throw it in the trash and we will make you shamed or simply deprived of the food that you were expecting you would be able to eat because your parents didn't complete paperwork. Not you, your parents. And so you are literally being punished, and not just a slap on the wrist or something. We're saying you're going to go through the rest of your day without eating. And by the way, if we want our kids to do well in school, maybe depriving them of nutrition in the middle of the day is not the best way to do it, because I know if I don't take constant food and caffeine, I can't think straight. I have to imagine that for kids is a similar thing. And so a couple of the other things that they say, he goes on to say, well, we have lots of food in America. And what I love about that is this is a guy who, going by what he says, has worked in school systems for a couple of decades. I don't know what school systems he's worked in. I would guess probably affluent ones. Yes, America does have more food on average than most other countries. Yes, many of us can afford to eat unhealthy food that makes us obese, seemingly eating more food than we need. But that doesn't mean that every kid in every school system across the country does not actually go to sleep hungry at times, or that meal that he gets at school isn't, one, a large portion of the food he eats every day, or two, the majority of the actual nutrition he gets every day, based on what I know about the way that most parents in America feed their kids. And of course, the kids can only be held so accountable for that since they don't have any money. Unless, of course, you want them to work in elementary school, and I imagine some people on Fox News probably would. And so it's very easy for him, inside of whatever bubble he currently exists in, to say, well, look, it's a slap on the wrist. They won't eat, but then they go home and then they eat. It's a very Rush Limbaugh sort of argument to make. Well, if they're hungry, go to the fridge. A lot of the kids, there's so many kids every day in America who go to sleep hungry, who don't get enough food or don't get any food on some days. And so I hate the idea that he just brushes it off as whatever, they'll be fine as soon as they get home. And then, of course, he throws in the broke joke. Well, my kids come for allowance all the time and I give it to them, and now I'm broke in my suit on national news. No, I don't buy that at all. Just because your kids needed a little bit of extra money to buy some more Pokemon cards or an iPhone or whatever, that doesn't mean that there aren't kids around the country who are not doing so well, whose parents can't afford to give them tons of money whenever they need it. And yes, the idea of kids going hungry is a very real thing, Thomas Kersting. I know you're brought on there for sort of, I guess, faux balance. You bring on the empathic woman who understands the needs of kids, and so you have to bring a heartless asshole as well, right? I guess that's what passes for news in this country. And so I understand it might seem weird that I'm focusing on this so much since it's, it's one school system that they're focusing on here. And I believe that one of the 10 commandments of journalism is proportionality. You should cover the news to the extent that it's important. And so that's why I won't be talking about this every day. But I also think that you have to be willing to point out the underlying ideology that isn't always on display, but exists in the political and media figures that are making decisions in this country. And so Thomas Kersting represents an opinion that is not just held by him, it's held by many. The trouble of poor kids, that's not really trouble. My kids are fine. I'm sure they're fine too. If it's nice and cozy in my bubble, then how bad could it be in urban areas, in poor areas? I'm sure poverty isn't really that bad. I'm sure going hungry isn't really that bad. And that's the sort of frame of mind that actually exists in the people making decisions and talking about the news for the most part on these major channels. They believe things like this, and that's why it's so important when they lay it out for us so clearly, as Thomas Kersting did in this case, that we cover it. And that's why I'm covering it today.